Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this game is called The Last Days of Athobrae. Last Days of Athobrae is a game for up to 5 people, 2 to 5 people, in which each person is a faction of and a city of a dying planet. Think Krypton as the planet is exploding underneath your feet, and you and the remaining people are like racing to get the rapidly vanishing resources that are available on the planet to attempt to build the spaceship that your people can climb on board of and then fly away as the place is exploding, much like this picture shows right here. It is a fascinating game that like has a lot of 4X going on with it. You are going to there's not really like exploring because the map is right there, but you will like move out and exploit the land. You'll be grabbing as many resources as you possibly can. As the other players are grabbing resources, you will be attempting to stop their units, their scouts, from grabbing those resources, perhaps killing them and taking the resources they are grabbing. And then, so that's the exterminate part of it. And then you are going to also have a tech tree. You have a deck of cards that has different technologies in it that you will research that will empower your group. And there's a really difficult balancing act that you have of like, do I use these resources to increase my power, or do I use these resources to build my spaceship? And you know, so you have to kind of balance those two things together and figure out which way you want to go with that. It is also got like, if you remember the old game Survive, well, I mean, technically yes, it's an old game, but it's been reprinted many, many times. That had the island in the middle that was like, you know, blowing up, and you were trying to escape as fast as possible. So it has kind of that going on as well, because as the game proceeds, you'll be removing pieces and chunks of the planet, and if your scouts are unlucky enough to be on those chunks, they're obviously going to die, and so there's a lot of that going on as well. So let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my thoughts on The Last Days of Athobrae. Alright, so this is Last Days of Athobrae. I've already gone ahead and done most of the setup. The only thing I haven't done is I haven't placed the city for this faction, which is technically the faction I'm going to be using to show you how to play the game is played. This is the Suva. They are, am I pronouncing that correct? I took German, man. The umlaut over the U, the Suv, whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, they're kind of like the natural citizens of the planet, if you will. I mean, each of the different factions has their own little special powers and abilities. I always like games that have that, where you have like some sort of thematic reason or thematic backstory behind the different factions that you have. So, and this one has that. So when you set up the game, what you're going to do is you're going to have a bunch of these tiles. These tiles have different different locations, like, you know, they're forests, they're mountains, they're marshes, they're deserts, and each one of these tiles has like the type of terrain on one side, like here this is a desert, and on the other side it tells you like this is when it gets flipped over, and I'll explain when it gets flipped over here in a little bit, but when the upheavals on the planet happen, they get flipped over and they kind of spit out these resources. So in this case there'd be 3 red cubes, which is food, and 1 purple cube, which is this palladium resource that's really, really important when it comes to building the different pieces of your spaceship that you're going to be using to try to escape from the planet. However, because like if you notice like the different colors, like this one's a yellow color, but you can see that there are green hexes and blue hexes and purple hexes and so on and so forth. And you'll notice that the cubes up here match up, except for these little clear cubes, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. Those all match up with these colors here. There's 2 different colors of blue, one's marsh and one's ocean, but ostensibly, if you go there and you want to like mine for resources or try to collect or forage for resources on those spots, you're gonna get the colors of the cubes that are represented by that. The only difference from that, however, is the the mountains. If you go to the mountains and you successfully forage, you get to roll this die, and as you can see, the die has all these different colors on it. And when you roll that die, whatever color you get result will be the type of resource that you get. And as you can probably guess, this is the only way you can actually forage and get purple resources. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself as far as that goes, as far as the different actions you're going to take as you play, but I want to let you know how the game is set up. So, as I said, this is a planet that is in upheaval. It is going to crumble away and explode, much like, as I said, like Krypton, basically. And so, to begin the game, depending on the number of players, you will draw locations out of this deck. The location will tell you, notice there's this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. You will draw those, and the cards themselves, like this one was B6. You would find that number, and then you would count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you do it. See, I did B6 for the blue city, which told me that the blue city is located there, and so I placed that. And so I'm going to do that right now for my city. So let's just turn this over and see what we get. And it says location F5 will be where my city is. So we're just going to go to F. And then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so first things first, we're going to flip this over. And we'll see that it has, I actually got lucky. There's like one purple cube. So that purple cube does not go on the board. With these others that you set up, that the upheavals have already happened, you do put the cubes on that. But here, this one, I get to keep that purple cube. So I'm already kind of ahead of the game a little bit. I got that purple cube, which is good. And then now everybody starts with 2 red cubes, 2 food cubes. So this is a pretty good start for me as far as that goes. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my city, and I'll place it in that location, and then I'll take my first 2 scouts, scout number 1 and scout number 2, and I'll place those there. And just so you can kind of see, these little discs just have like a S1 there, and on the back it is the exact same thing, but it is in red. Scouts have basically 1 hit point after they get hit once. You flip them over, and if they get hit again, they are destroyed. So technically, I guess 2 hit points, but 1 hit point, they can take 1 hit point of damage before they're destroyed. All right, so on the player board themselves, you will see that there are the spots for the 4 different scouts, and then you will you will be able to place different, you'll be able to place resources on them as they collect them. Scouts can have up to 6 resources. They will go out onto the board, collect those, and bring them back to your city. Once they're back in your city, you can use them to get technologies that are going to help you try to escape the planet, as well as build up your spaceship that's going to get you out. All right, so how does the game work exactly? So each person will take a turn, and on that turn they get to take 3 actions. There's several different actions that you can take. There are, here I might as well, I'll pick up this player board just so you can kind of see. I'll move those off there real quick. So like sometimes like on the player boards, like you can see like ability action, we must fight for Athobrae, brother beast. Before attacking, Suvan scouts may spend 1 food resources from their bag to add 1 to the result of their attack. So there are special abilities that you can do, and then also that each class will have like instinctive. If a Suvan scout is on location when it is flipped, that scout will not be wounded. Normally, like when there's an upheaval, if you're on that spot, your scouts will take damage. But in this situation, like that, and that ability, the attribute is like passive. It isn't something you have to actually take an action to do it. So that's like one of the many actions you can do. And there's even like this cool little card here that you get. And as always, I've said this in many different times in my videos. If you have a game that has several different actions you can take, a little card like this is just so helpful to give to everybody so they can have it. And so you can see there's all those things. You can move, you can search, you can do research and development, you can build, recruit scouts, attack, trade, special ability, which is on your card, regrouping, counts as all 3 of your actions, and fuel the IQV. The IQV is your spaceship that you're going to be trying to escape with. So moving is pretty simple. You just take an action and you get to move your scouts. Your scouts can move up to 3 spaces. Scouts normally, unless they have a special technology or something, can't cross over a empty space where tiles have been removed because they've crumbled away. I'll explain how that happens just real briefly here in just a little bit when I get to the actual like world events and locations section of the turn. And they also cannot cross over a city. That you know, they have to go around it. And cities, most of the time, like to do attacks, you have to be next to each other or be on the same spot as each other. But sometimes cities will block a line of sight for range attacks, and also cities can sometimes make attacks on scouts that are out there. Just so you know, you can't ever get knocked out of the game. You can have all your scouts get destroyed, but then you can rebuild them. You know, so just, but you can't ever like, you know, like be eliminated. There's no player elimination in this game. When you search or forage for an item, no matter like if you have, say, like let's put my like one scout here and one scout there. So I have like for red here, the red would have a scout here on the forest and a scout here on the desert there, and they wanted to do a search. When you do a search, you don't pick one scout. You get to pick all your scouts that happen to be on the board, and you get to attempt to search for resources in those locations. To actually do the search, you're going to take 2 dice for every one of your scouts. That can be affected by special technologies and what have you, but you're going to roll that, and so then like you just take 2 dice for that one in the desert. Let's see, I got 1, and you're looking for 5s and 6s, so that would get me a 1 yellow resource from that location, and then the other 2 dice I wouldn't get anything for being in that forest. So like you're going to search in those spots. Obviously, the more scouts that you have out, the more chances you have to get things. And like, you know, you can even have scouts double up in spaces. Like if I really, you know, wanted to search for green, you'd search there. But any resources you get, you would take, and then you would take out of the pool and you put onto the scout. If there are resources on a location, like let's say this scout here is in this location right there, and they wanted to try to get these purples that are on that. Now, exposed resources can happen lots of different ways. Scouts can only carry 6 things. If you collect more resources than you can carry, the rest are dropped on the ground. If the scout is destroyed and it has resources, the resources are dropped on the ground. And then upheavals cause things to show up as well. So this one must have flipped off there. So what happens is like same exact thing. You roll 2 dice, and then if you get any successes, you get to collect the resource of your choice. So here I wouldn't get a success. So like, but here I'll cheat and I'll give myself like a 6 and a 4. So then the scout could grab one of the 2 exposed. Now, you know, and also each hex can only have up to 4 resources on the spot. You can't just like have a big giant pile of resources on there. But after 4, the excess is destroyed. You don't get to see it. All right, so that is how you search. Research and development. So when you research and develop, normally what you'll do is you'll take 3 cards off of your deck, and you will pick one of those 3 cards, and then you just put the other 2 at the bottom of your deck. So here, I'll just take 3 cards off the top here. And so like here we'd have a technology card of traps, like an event of medicine, like use this card to fully heal a scout of all wounds and poisons, and then technology of rope bridge. And so, and different factions have different technologies. Like the Sioux, they get to make these rope bridges that like, you know, eventually what's going to happen is like there's going to be spots that crumble away, and when you put a rope bridge, your scouts are able to cross over those locations. The rope bridges can be used by other players, but they have a really good chance. They have a 50-50 shot of like falling to their doom if they use them. So you'd pick one, like let's say you want to keep the rope bridge, and then you take the other 2 and you just put it at the bottom of the deck like so. And then if you want to, then going on to like the next action, like build. When you build, you spend the resources. If you collect them, you can see up there in the top left, there is a blue cube, a green cube, and an yellow cube. You spend those to build it, and you just go ahead and expose that to show everybody that you've got that ability. You've achieved that bonus. I'll go through more of the cards here in a little bit just so you can see it, but you know, I want to go through the rest of the actions first. For 4 food, if you have 4 red cubes, you can recruit scouts. That just gives you a brand new scout. As you can see, there are 4 spots, but you do have 5 of these because there is a technology that is like a 5th scout. So you can research, and then you can have 5 total scouts roaming around out onto the board. I've only had that happen once. Yeah, here. So like here's like the 5th scout. And then like you'd put that out there, and you if you have that, like you'd be able to have a 5th scout, and you'd keep the technology over there. So you can like basically like have an extra one out there. Then like if you ever like have no scouts at all, that's what the regrouping action does. What that does is it basically gives you a couple of food, so like hopefully that will like allow you to regroup and be able to then build scouts the next turn, so you aren't like totally behind the 8 ball. Like, as it would be if you couldn't regroup and you lost all your scouts, you didn't have enough food to like gather if you didn't have 4 food and you lost all your scouts, you wouldn't be able to create a scout. But with a regroup action, you can still get food, and you can still get scouts out there. Trading actions are only between you and your other scouts. So if you have 2 scouts in the same spot, they can trade resources back and forth with one another. You can't trade with other players. I mean, this is a competitive game that isn't cooperative, so there would be no reason for you to do that. You can also, like the attacking, I should talk about attacking. Sometimes a city will have an ability to attack because of the technology. A city attacking a scout, normally a 4, 5, or 6 on a die will work. If scouts attack one another, it is a 5 or a 6. Again, if you take damage, you just flip your scout over to the other side to show the red. If they take another point of damage, they then are destroyed, and they are removed, and any resources they have are dumped onto the spot that they are in. So there are other things that happen, like you can have a scout get poisoned, and they just take damage every turn. Poison scouts usually aren't long for the board, unless you like have that medicine card or something like that. Traps, if like somebody researches traps and puts traps on the board, and scouts enter into those spots with traps, they will take damage as soon as they hit those. So there's things like that. Scouts also will take damage, like as mentioned from the attribute, their instinctives. Like Suvan scouts don't take damage when there's upheavals, but if like a spot that has scouts on it, if there's an upheaval on there and you flip the tile, the scouts will take damage from that. If the scouts are on a spot where they gets for a hex that is just completely removed, they automatically die. They plunge to their death. So nothing. The last action is the one that allows you to win. It is the fuel the IQV. Now remember I mentioned this antimatter, these clear cubes. So there is 1 hex per color on the board that will spit out these when they get turned over. And when I set up the game, I actually did this. I actually had like one show up in the middle here. Like, it is this antimatter fuel, and you need that to be able to fuel your spaceship, your IQV, to be able to escape from the planet and be the winner. It is very possible that the planet will get destroyed and nobody will successfully manage to build their spaceship and be able to escape, and then in that case everybody loses. But if you have a fully built ship and you have an animator cube inside your city, on your turn you can take an action to basically escape from the planet before it gets destroyed, and you are the winner. Now, there are actions and things, like there are technologies that will allow, and events and things like that allow people to take steel cubes from cities. So just because somebody would like maybe race out, like my scout on the very first turn, I could race one out, I could land, I could stop there, I could roll a 5 or 6 and I can get that, and I get back, I'd have that in my city. That does not mean it's going to stay there. Somebody could definitely come in there and snag it from me if I'm not too careful. All right, so all that being said, I wanted to talk about taking your actions. Each person takes their 3 actions. They go to the next person, takes their 3 actions, and so on and so forth. So after everybody's gone, that is when you will do both the locations and then the world events. So the first thing the first player does, or the first player does move each turn. So like the person who goes first, then they will be the last person next, and so the first player will adjust after every turn. So they're going to take a location card and they're going to flip it over. So this one says B2. So what we would do is we would find location B2. We'd find this one right here. We'd pick it up. And I wanted to show you something that you probably may have not seen. So like this side is like the desert. So on the flip side, holy cow, look at that. It's another animated cube. So, but if you notice the art itself, like you can see there's like, you can see the cities like erupting and stuff like that, you know, behind. So like you can actually, like I like that. It's like a little added bonus where you can see that that is what's destroying the world. So then you place that cube onto that spot like so to show that that's there. That's the upheaval. And then you draw a world event card and you see what happens here. So this one, and every event card has both a world event and a city event. I'll talk about the city events here in a second. So this one just says, this place is going crazy. Every scout currently on a city hex takes a wound. So basically like they're saying that the people are going crazy and you know, there's riots and whatever. So everybody that's on a city takes a damage, you know, and that's just a world event, and you place that on there. All right, pretty straightforward or whatever. Now, couple things. If you draw a location card that happens to be a city, a place that has a city on it, the city, you don't go through the process. The cities don't get destroyed. You don't do that. That is when you do the city event that's on here. So like this is contamination. Remove, it says remove D6 D6 red cubes from city storage. So like the city that got affected gets affected by the city changes. Now, not all world events are actually going to have anything, either a bad happen or possibly like anything happen at all. Sometimes it's just like it's smooth sailing. You know, it's just like, oh, you kind of escaped a little bit. So, couple things. If you pick like a location that happens to be already flipped, so like let's say it was this location that's already flipped, so you take this and you just destroy it. You take the cubes that are on there. If there was a scout on there, it was destroyed. And you take this cube and you remove it from the game, and now there's a open spot where that is. Secondly, if you draw a location that is already an open spot, when that happens, you draw 3 more locations and 3 more world events for each one of those locations, and you resolve each and every one of them. And that can compile. As you can see, if those things happen, you can very quickly have this entire planet get ravaged and destroyed, and it's a domino effect. And that's something actually I really like, and I find that to be funny in a really horrible, like dismay, like we're all going to die kind of way. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the game a great deal. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I wanted to show you a couple other the things that you can do. So I wanted to show you like the blueprints. When there are these like blueprints and you have to build, like, so this is the blueprints for the cryogenics, and so then it shows you up there you need 3 blue cubes and 1 yellow cube to build the cryogenics. This is just, you know, for the hull, and for the hull you need 2 purple cubes and 1 green cube. Now you can build these in any order. If you have the right things, you can do it. Here's the antimatter chamber that needs 2 purple, 2 blue, and a green. You know, so, and you can, like I said, you can build those in any order, and there's only a certain number of those cards in each deck. So, and here it is, like on the back of the back of this, the number of actions, it actually tells you there is 1 antimatter chamber card, 2 thrusters, 2 quantum reactors, 2 cryogenics, and 3 hulls. And you need to build 1 of each of those. So obviously the antimatter chamber, you want to get that card in your hand and be able to build it as soon as you can. You can have a maximum of 7 cards in your hand at any time. If you draw more cards, you're going to have to discard some. Now, as you discard the cards, and I'm going to show you this, there are placed in the deck several things like there's this It's Getting Worse card. This is the first one of the 3 special cards. The special event, each player may take an event from their discard pile, event card from the discard pile, and place it into their hand. Place this card face up on the board. From now on, pull 3 locations and 3 world events during the Doom phase, and that's when you. So things are getting worse, obviously. And then there's a second one, and let me dig that out. And there's a third one, which it just says it's time to go. But of course now I gotta find the next one, and these are just like kind of help out with the thematicness of the situation, and also with like, like ramping up the difficulty a little bit. So here it is. The end is nigh. And so a special event says each player may take any card from their discard pile and place it into their hand. Replace the It's Getting Worse with this card from now on. Pull 4 locations and 4 Doom events during the Doom phase. And then finally, It's Time to Go. Each player must reshuffle their entire discard pile into their city deck. Replace The End is Nigh with this card. From now on, pull 5 locations and 5 world events. And so you can tell, obviously, that ramps up pretty quickly. If you don't win the game fairly quickly after that card is pulled, you're probably not going to win. That's it, and the timing of it actually works really, really well. Something that I enjoyed as well with the game. I mean, I was at, I played this several times with my friends, and we were basically 50-50, whether or not somebody won or the world basically blew up underneath our feet. And either result was highly satisfying. But let me talk about that and more in my final thoughts. Okay, so there you go. Last Days of Athobrae. I've already kind of detailed some of the reasons why I really like it, but if you missed that, it just combines a couple things I really like. I've always liked that game Survive. I remember owning, I think the Parker Brothers version so many years ago, and then, obviously Stronghold Games reprinted it 8-9 years ago as well, and I know there's been other reiterations. I've always enjoyed the escaping the thing storyline. It makes for a very fun game. It's very tension filled. It's just something that just kind of speaks to me. It's just something about grabbing resources and stealing them from other people and using technology to kind of push people away and hold them down while you yourself are just scavenging up everything and being a greedy little monster and it's like I'm gonna escape, see you later, that kind of mentality. And I think that kind of brings out that whole I get to be the bad guy kind of feeling, which we tend to kind of enjoy. We kind of embrace rooting for the bad guy, and that's kind of a weird mentality, but it's just an escape type of thing. So I like that a lot. And plus, I've always really enjoyed thematic games. I've enjoyed thematic 4X type games. Now, this isn't true 4X. I mean, like I said, there isn't a lot of exploring going on. There's no really expanding. You're not really controlling territory. But there definitely is that feel of the tactical feel of pushing, having different units, using them for different purposes, figuring out what best 3 actions you're going to do on your turn. How am I going to get these resources? How am I going to get those resources back? I mean, there's definitely situations where it's you can get chains of scouts where it's okay, they managed to get those purple and blue cubes. I want that scout. I'll move it 3. I'll do a trade action to hand off this scout. Then I'll move that scout 3. To reach my city. And the other thing is too is if you have a scout that has a bunch of resources on it, they can just fly through the city, and as they're going through, they drop off the resources. So it isn't a thing where you have to go there and stop and do it. I will say if you do a search action with a scout that is on a planet, on a city, if they are wounded, they heal. So I mean, there is that. That's kind of cool. So you don't have to have a medic card to be able to heal your scouts. So that's kind of a cool ability too. It's just kind of having one of the things I've tried to do a few times is I've just concentrated on food right away, trying to build up my scouts and try to get as many as I can, and then get them out there. Just creating as much havoc, grabbing as many resources as I possibly can. Hopefully the other players haven't already on their turns, scavenged up all the good spots, all the good resources, and then taking off. So I mean, it's just there's all these cool different ways to play. Plus, the different factions have their own special powers. It's one of those games where each time you play, it's gonna be different. I mean, the rules state it's hey, put these tiles, these resources out, the tiles however you like. You can do it randomly. You can, put them out there, like, specifically. You can, like, try to say, okay, we're just going to put all the oceans in the middle, and then we're going to surround that with mountains, and then, like, we'll have forests over here. You can do that if you want. And, like, I remember when I played it with my daughter, I was like, go ahead and just create the planet. And I just let her just kind of place the things where she wanted. And that was kind of neat, to have these, actually, like, create continents, kind of, so to speak, on that planet. Having the water surround, like, different, like, outcroppings of land and whatever. So it was just kind of, it's kind of cool how you can play it lots of different ways. Plus, that you get a ton of tiles, so you never actually use all of them. You can't always count on, okay, where's that one tile that's got the 3 purple on it? You can't count on that one being revealed. So I like that as well. Anytime where, like, you never exactly know what you're going to get when you play, adds to the variability, adds to the excitement, adds to the enjoyment, for the game. So, for all those reasons, it's a nice game. Tells a cool story. Having everybody lose because the planet explodes is always a nice way for the game to end. I'd rather win, obviously, but if I can't win, having the planet explode, I guess, is kind of a funny way for the game to end. Plus, we always were, like, talking about it like it being Krypton, so lots of people made Superman jokes while we played, which we really enjoyed as well. That, if that's your cup of tea, great, but anytime a game, like, just adds that little, like, a little bit of pop culture in there, so we can, crack wise, whatever, adds to the fun. But there you go. It is an extremely fun game. It's an extremely fun competitive game that tells a story while you play, and usually ends up, like, everybody cursing the person that wins as they fly away and wave goodbye as everybody else feels the planet explode out from underneath their feet. But there you go. If you have any questions about the last days of Athobrae, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. Please take a moment to hit the old like button or the whatever if you're so inclined. And as always, thank you for watching. Be the best version of you that you possibly can be. I know you're an awesome human being, and I'll try to be an awesome human being. And hopefully one day we'll meet and we'll be 2 awesome human beings talking in the same place at the same time, having a great discussion about how awesome this world is. Until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and you're awesome, as I said.